In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, praise be to God, the cherisher and sustainer of all the world. Today, I'll be reading day 7 of the Science of Mind textbook in 1 year. The title for today is of this unit, Limitless Power at Man's Disposal. Marvelous as the concept may be, it is none the less true that man has at his disposal in what he calls his subjective mind, a power that seems to be limitless. This is because he is one with the whole on the subjective side of life. Man's thought, falling into his subjective mind, merges with the universal subjective mind and becomes the law of his life through the one great law of all life. There are not two subjective minds. There is but one subjective mind, and what we call our subjective mind is really the use we are making of the one law. Each individual maintains his identity in law through his personal use of it, and each is drawing from life what he thinks into it. To learn how to think is to learn how to live, for our thoughts go into a medium that is infinite in its ability to do and to be. Man, by thinking, can bring into his experience whatsoever he desires, if he thinks correctly, and becomes a living embodiment of his thoughts. This is not done by holding thoughts, but by knowing the truth. Within us, then, there is a creative field which we call the subjective mind. Around us there is a creative field which we call subjective. One is universal and the other is individual, but in reality they are one. There is one mental law in the universe, and where we use it, it becomes our law because we have individualized it. It is impossible to plumb the depths of the individual mind, because the individual mind is really not individual, but is individualized. Behind the individual is the universe, which has no limits. In this concept alone lies the possibility of eternal and endless expansion. Everyone is universal on the subjective side of life, and individual only at the point of conscious perception. The riddle is solved, and we all use the creative power of the universal mind every time we use our own mind. This next section is titled, All Thought is Creative. Since this is true, it follows that we cannot say that one thought is creative while another is not. We must say that all thought is creative, according to the nature, impulse, emotion, or conviction behind the thought. Thought creates a mold in the subjective, in which the idea is accepted and poured, and sets power in motion in accordance with the thought. Ignorance of this excuses no one from its effects, for we are dealing with law and not with whimsical fancy. The conscious mind is superior to the subjective and may consciously use it. Great as the subconscious is, its tendency is set in motion by the conscious thought, and in this possibility lies the path to freedom. The karmic law is not kismet. It is not fake, but cause and effect. It is a taskmaster to the unwise, a servant to the wise. The next section, titled The Road to Freedom is Not Mysterious. Experience has taught us that the subjective tendency of this intelligent law of creative force may consciously be directed and definitely used. This is the greatest discovery of all time. There is no mystery here, but a profound fact and a demonstrable one. The road to freedom lies not through mysteries or occult performances, but through the intelligent use of nature's force and laws. The law of mind is a natural law in the spiritual world. But what do we mean by spiritual world? We mean the world of conscious intelligence. The subjective is a world of law and of mechanical order. In our lives, it is largely a reaction, an effect, a way. It is never a person. It is never a person, though it often appears to act as though it were one. Right here, many are completely misled, mistaking subjective impulses for actual personalities. This, however, is a field of investigation not fully to be considered here. The simplest way to state the proposition is to say that we have a conscious mind that operates within a subjective field, which is creative. The conscious mind is spirit. The subjective mind is law. One is a complement of the other, and no real individuality could be expressed without a combination of both. No man has ever plumbed the depths of either the conscious or the subjective life. In both directions, we reach out to infinity, and since we cannot encompass infinity, we shall always be expanding and always enlarging our capacity to know and to experience. We need not ask why these things are so. There can be no reason given as to why the truth is true. We do not create laws and principles, but discover and make use of them. Let us accept this position relative to the laws of mind and spirit and see what we can do with them, rather than how we can contradict the inevitable. Our mind and spirit is our echo of the eternal thing itself. And the sooner we discover this fact, the sooner we shall be made free and happy. The universe is filled with spirit and filled with law. One reacts to the other. We are spirit and we are law. The law of our life reacts to our spiritual or material concepts and builds and rebuilds according to our beliefs and faith. I'll be continuing the next section for day 7 after this break. Peace be still.